going on in the small intestine? All right, so small intestine, on its inside, it also has ridges. So show me your model small intestine's ridges. They're there. Okay, these are not rugae. Would you agree? You can take actually this whole part off. So that's part of it, but you want to look at the duodenum. Right. So if you look at the duodenum, so you look at the duodenum, you'd agree it's got ridges on its inside. But the ridges here are not rugae. Do you agree they look a little, they're ridges, but they look a little different? Yes. Okay. The ridges here are much more, they're not like temporary. Rugae come and go, they're temporary. These are much less temporary, and they're really for like spiraling food. It's to help mix. So they're more, a little bit more, like I said, they're less temporary. So they're actually called plicae circularis. Plicae circularis. Because their functionality and their anatomy is actually different from rugae, even though at first glance they look like they're the same thing. They're really not. Plicae circularis. Now, in this region, your stomach is for mixing. Your stomach dumps a bunch of acid and a few enzymes on whatever you ate, mixes it all together. Whereas a bolus of food goes into the stomach, what comes out the other end is called chyme. Okay, so that's when you vomit, that's chyme. Okay. So chyme has to now get put, when it's all mixed up, it gets sent to your small intestine, to your duodenum. So or your duodenum. Okay, so your California accent shows up everything. So your duodenum then has to deal with a couple of things. It's going to have to deal with the fact that something very acidic is coming in there. So right off the bat, it has to neutralize the acid. Yeah, your small intestine, this part of the duodenum is actually like pH 8. So that when the pH 2 comes in there, it starts. And there's going to be a reason why. It's going to be fairly basic. And then it's also, your small intestine's job is actually to do most of the chemical digestion, most of the breakdown of molecules, and the vast majority of the absorption. Okay, so people think the stomach absorbs nutrients. It does not. It absorbs weird things like aspirin and booze. Okay, so like accident and caffeine, accidents of nature. Okay, but it doesn't absorb much. Okay. Your small intestine is where you're going to absorb your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your glucose, all that stuff is going on in the small intestine. That's why small intestine is so big. Okay? That's why it's so long. So you have lots of surface area and lots of opportunity to absorb this stuff. So that means your small intestine is going to have a slightly different anatomy, and it has a different set of problems. So you'll secrete the bile. So the bile is going to come from your liver, again, stored in your gallbladder, and your common bile duct meet each other at the structure called the coiled up stuff that you see here. That's jejunum and ileum. And you don't know where one ends and the other begins. So that's why a lot of times that whole coiled up part, yes ma'am, it's called the iliojejunum. Because that no matter where you stick the sticker, you're in one of them. So that whole area just gets called the iliojejunum. So we travel through our iliojejunum. Oh, this is ileum meets the cecum, or large intestine. Okay. So show me. Slightly. Unless you want to become a gastroenterologist. Okay. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten different names. All right, so show me your area where your ileum meets your cecum. Perfect. Yep. So here's cecum, and then you see the finger sticking out. That is vermiform appendix. So you see, in humans we have a big one. Vermiform appendix. Cecum. There's like a line structure that comes through this thing. Several of you had pointed it out to me. So this thing, that's a valve. So we don't have a sphincter here. We have a valve.
Oh, that's the true valve.
That's the valve. Yeah. So this is the one that's the true valve. So that's the ileocephal valve. So, because you would like feces not to go backwards, right? Okay. Really would prefer that feces not go backwards.
I can't envision
let's see it on yours.
I can't envision the function of it, how it's going to work.
It's not
so
too
it just
sexy
closes
looking.
like this?
Yeah. So it's a one-way valve. So what happens is once material gets dumped in here, it physically just can't go backwards.
Okay.
Unless things are falling apart.
It almost looks like it's back.
Ascending colon.
Ascending colon. Then we make a turn. The turn has a name.
Transverse colon.
Not yet. The turn has a name.
Oh, sigmoid colon.
No. So I never told you what it was.
Oh.
The turns are called flexures. Right? So this is the hepatic flexure because it's under the liver. Or the right flexure.
Is that this? Right here?
Yeah, so it's literally where it turns.
Yeah.
Your fingers are right on it. So if that is the hepatic flexure. The other, or the right flexure, the other one's the left flexure. The flexures are somewhere in there. Yeah. Left or, I can't remember if it's cardiac or gastric. So the turns have name. Flexure, transverse colon, left flexure, descending colon. You can see on these models, and then, but I'll show you where it is. And then rectum anus. So one of these big models, when we take the large torso apart, you see, can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
So you can see the iliojejunum, ascending colon, flexure, transverse flexure, descending, and then see how here it looks like a letter S. Oh, it comes apart. It comes apart. Okay, so there's the descending colon, and then it goes like this. Okay. So if you get close to it, you'll see here there's a letter S.
Oh.
That's the sigmoid colon.
Looks like cause for a problem there. Doesn't it?
That's the one that the camera goes up. Yeah.
It looks like a pinch off the
Yeah. Someone asked me about colon cancer earlier. And then once you get the part that goes straight down, that's rectum. And then your anus is obviously the hole at the end. Okay. So that is the one that the camera goes up. The camera goes up rectum, sigmoid colon, and sometimes a little bit above it. And then that's as far as you can put a camera in the human body. Higher risk for cancer because it divides so rapidly. So that means that, as you can imagine, in the colon, you always have feces coming down. It's sloughing off the epithelium. That epithelium is going to have to be regenerative. Same in your stomach, same in your small intestine. I mean, this epithelium gets a lot of abrasion. So that means it's doing mitosis a lot, and so it's just at increased risk. Its DNA is open all the time. So if you have toxins in there, it's going to mutate the DNA. It's a one of the things is a low fiber diet, or a diet that increases risk of colon cancer. The other is a diet high in red meat, because when someone eats a lot of red meat, they tend to not eat the fiber. Okay? So people tend to, if you're a high red meat eater, it means it's not the red meat. It's probably the absence of everything else. Because people who eat a lot of red meat tend to eat, no offense if this is anyone in the room, but they tend to go steak and potatoes.
Yeah.
Bacon and eggs, hamburger and french fries. Okay, that was your day. And no green, red, purple, blue entered the picture. You might want to mix it up a bit. Lettuce has even have the urge, but you can control when you actually go, right? Yes. Because you have two sphincters. So the internal sphincter is smooth muscle. You have no conscious control over that. There's a reflex for that. So when the feces come down, they distend the wall here, and that triggers the internal anal sphincter, so it relaxes. So now the feces comes down and it's sitting on the external anal sphincter. The external anal sphincter is skeletal muscles. You have conscious control over that. So the urge to defecate, we use our big anatomy word, it's a reflex. It's the defecation reflex. So that's feces coming down, the internal anal sphincter opens automatically because it's autonomic nervous system. Your external anal sphincter you'll only open when you're ready to I gotta go. So that's somatic nervous system. You have conscious control over that. The only other place where you have a lot of skeletal muscle is in your esophagus. The very superior part of your esophagus is skeletal muscle, so that you can decide when you swallow, right? You make a conscious decision you're going to swallow. Once you swallow, you trigger a reflex, and it is now smooth muscle all the way down to the external anal sphincter, and it controls itself. Okay? And you know, if you need to speed it up, slow it down, you know, your brain will extrinsically help you out. But okay, I think that's funny that we actually see. Mid-sagittal line has a band of smooth muscle. You see it as a white and red line that goes all the way around the down the tube. Okay, so see it. Yours is a gray line. So see the gray line in the middle?
Yeah.
That line. Okay, so everyone point to that line for me. Very good. You can follow it all the way across. Okay. That's a line of smooth muscle. And it's the tinea, T-E-N-I-A, tinea cola.
Oh, so that's
Good sign. Tinea cola.
this.
That's the line, yeah. So realize it's smooth muscle. And the other thing to notice is, can you see that the large intestine is divided into like discrete little pouches?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the pouches are obviously attached to each other, but it does have a very segmented appearance to it. Each little pouch or segment is called a haustrum. A haustrum.
Haustrum. Oh, that's the
Haustrum.
singular.
Haustra versus haustrum. Yeah. Singular, plural, no. Okay. And in lecture, we'll talk about how the large intestine does contractions, but one haustra contracts at a time, and they contract in sequence to push the feces to the end. Yes, it goes
Like a line.
exactly like sequence, highly coordinated. So, and this picture is from those two.
So don't follow me.
Ooh. A ligament right on the surface. See, there's like a line right on the front. So there's a little ligament there. Is it on our list? Stop. It's already said something that wasn't on your list.
Oh, falciform.
Good, it's on the list. Yeah. It's going to show us a line. Okay.
Fal, F-A-L-C-I-F-O-R-M.
One of the biggest lobes is the right lobe. So, it's your model's right, not your right. So the big one that kind of tucks down, that's the right lobe. And then the one that goes off to the left is the left lobe. Now, if you look at the inferior surface, there's two more lobes. One of them looks like a finger. It's kind of long and skinny, and it's posterior. And then the other one looks like a square. It's got like 4 squared sides to it. Show me the one first. Show me the square.
Square.
There's your square. And you see the tail?
What?
Posterior.
So this is the anterior one.
No, that's the inferior.
Okay, it's inferior.
So
okay.
inferior and posterior. So go toward your fourth finger goes right on it.
That's
what?
the small thing.
This.
Keep going now. There you go. That.
This. So this part.
Oh, now you're on something else.
No,
This
now you're on the
part.
right
This
lobe.
thing.
This
Just
finger.
that. Yup, now she keeps going between two.
Oh my god.
Just
This
that.
part.
Just
Ah.
Why are you over here?